In 1925, a man walked into the Amazon jungle, chasing something no one had ever proven existed. He wasn't a dreamer. He was a decorated British explorer, a soldier, a map maker trusted by governments. His name was Percy Fawcett, and he believed, deep in the unexplored heart of South America, there was an ancient, lost civilization. Not ruins, not myths, a city. He called it Z. For years, Fawcett prepared, studied the land, studied the tribes, studied fragments of records that most men dismissed as fantasy. But to him, it wasn't fantasy. It was unfinished work. Then, in 1925, he set out on his final expedition. He wasn't alone. His son, Jack, went with him, along with Jack's closest friend. 3 men, 1 mission. They entered the jungle and were never seen again. No confirmed bodies, no confirmed location, no clear explanation. Just silence. Search parties went in after them. Some never came back. Others returned with stories that didn't make sense. Stories of hostile tribes, of strange warnings, of something deeper in the jungle that wasn't meant to be found. Nearly a century later, the question still stands. What did Percy Fawcett actually find? And more importantly, what stopped him from ever coming back? This is the Quiet Files. Before the jungle, before the disappearance, Percy Fawcett was already a man shaped by discipline. Born in 1867 in England, he came from a family tied to status, expectation, and service. But Fawcett wasn't chasing comfort. He chose structure, order, control. He trained as an officer in the British Army, where precision wasn't optional. It was survival. Every movement calculated, every decision measured. He became known for something rare, not bravery, not ambition, accuracy. That reputation led him somewhere unexpected, the Royal Geographical Society, an institution responsible for mapping parts of the world most people would never see. And they didn't send dreamers. They sent men who could be trusted not to disappear. In the early 1900s, Fawcett was assigned to South America. His job wasn't to explore, it was to measure, to define borders between Bolivia and Brazil, to bring order to places that had none. And at first, that's exactly what he did. He mapped rivers, tracked terrain, documented everything with military precision. No speculation, no imagination, just facts. But the jungle has a way of changing men. Not all at once, slowly, quietly. Fawcett began hearing stories from locals, from tribes, from whispers passed down through generations, stories of ancient cities hidden deep beyond mapped land, structures swallowed by the jungle, civilizations older than anyone had recorded. Most men ignored those stories, filed them away as myth, but Fawcett didn't, because he started noticing something: fragments, broken pottery, unusual markings, evidence that didn't fit the official understanding of the region. And once that door opened, he couldn't close it. This wasn't curiosity anymore. It was a pattern that suggested something had been there, something advanced, something lost. And from that moment on, Fawcett stopped seeing the jungle as a place to map. He started seeing it as something hiding the truth. And that truth would consume the rest of his life. At first, Percy Fawcett kept his findings to himself. Fragments of pottery, unusual symbols, stories that didn't match anything officially recorded. Individually, they meant nothing. But together, they suggested something that shouldn't exist: an advanced civilization deep within the Amazon. Fawcett wasn't the first to hear these stories. Centuries earlier, Portuguese explorers wrote about a lost city hidden in the interior of Brazil, a place of stone structures, wide roads, and people who vanished without explanation. Most historians dismissed it as exaggeration or desperation. Fawcett didn't, because what he was seeing in the field matched those accounts. Not perfectly, but enough. Enough to raise a question no one wanted to ask. What if the Amazon was never empty? What if something had existed there long before anyone started keeping records? Fawcett gave it a name, not a location, not coordinates, just a single letter. Z. To him, it wasn't a myth, it was a target. And that's when everything changed. Because once Fawcett started talking about Z, people stopped taking him seriously. The same institutions that once trusted him began to distance themselves. Scholars called it fantasy. Colleagues warned him he was risking his reputation. Some believed the jungle had gotten to him. But Fawcett didn't back down. If anything, he became more certain. He returned to the Amazon again and again, each time pushing further, deeper, beyond mapped territory. Conditions got worse, supplies ran thinner, communication became unreliable, and still, no confirmed discovery, no city, no proof. Just more fragments, more clues, more reason to believe he was getting closer. But something else started happening, something harder to explain. Messages became inconsistent, reports incomplete, certain details left out entirely. It was as if Fawcett wasn't just chasing something anymore, he was protecting it, or hiding it. By the time he prepared for his final expedition in 1925, he made one thing very clear. No large search parties, no unnecessary attention, and no rescue mission if things went wrong. Because according to Fawcett, if they failed, no one would ever find them anyway. In April of 1925, Percy Fawcett began his final expedition. This time, it was different. He didn't bring a large team, no heavy support, no backup plan. Just 3 men. Fawcett, his son, Jack, and Jack's closest friend, Raleigh Rimmel. They carried only what they needed, minimal supplies, basic equipment, and a belief that they were getting close. Before leaving, Fawcett sent a final message, not to a government, not to a sponsor, but to his wife. In it, he made something very clear. There would be no rescue mission. If they didn't return, no one should come looking. Because according to him, it would only lead to more deaths. That wasn't fear. That was certainty. The expedition moved deeper into the Amazon, beyond mapped territory, beyond any reliable contact. For weeks, there was nothing. Then, one final update, a message sent from what he called Dead Horse Camp. After that, silence. No confirmed sightings, no verified communication, no trace of the 3 men. At first, people assumed delay. The jungle was unpredictable, travel was slow. But weeks turned into months, and months into nothing. That's when the search parties began. Hundreds of men entered the jungle over the years, some driven by duty, others by curiosity. Many came back with nothing. Some never came back at all. And the ones who did return didn't agree on what happened. Some claimed Fawcett and his group were killed by hostile tribes. Others said they starved or got lost. But there were stories that didn't fit those explanations. Stories of tribes who said the men passed through and kept going. Stories of warnings ignored. Stories that suggested they made it further than anyone expected. And then there were the rumors that Fawcett didn't fail. He found what he was looking for and chose not to come back. For nearly a century, people have tried to explain what happened to Percy Fawcett. The most accepted answer is also the simplest, that he and his team were killed by disease, starvation, or by tribes defending their land. And on the surface, that makes sense. The Amazon is unforgiving, It doesn't care how experienced you are. It doesn't care how prepared you think you are. But that explanation doesn't answer everything, because no confirmed remains were ever found. Not Fawcett, not Jack, not Raleigh. And that's unusual. Even in the jungle, something is usually left behind. Then there are the reports, accounts from tribes who claimed the men passed through their territory unharmed. Accounts that said they were warned not to go any further, and that they ignored those warnings. Some believed they were killed shortly after. Others said something different, that Fawcett wasn't lost. He was moving with purpose, deeper than anyone else had gone before. There are even theories that he found exactly what he was looking for. That Z wasn't a myth, that it existed, hidden, protected, and that Fawcett chose to stay, not because he was trapped, but because he didn't want it to be found. No proof ever confirmed that, but no proof ever ruled it out either. And that's what keeps this case open. Not what we know, but what we don't. Because somewhere in the Amazon, past the mapped land, past the places people are willing to go, there may still be something hidden, something Fawcett believed in enough to risk everything. And if he was right, then whatever he found out there was never meant to be brought back. Some stories are lost to time. Others are kept that way. This is The Quiet Files.